everyone, Mitchell here from Jeffrey Workplace Solutions, and today we're going over the CarFit checklist to help your car fit you. Okay, so several years ago, CAA, along with the Canadian Association of Occupational Therapists, took a program from the United States and worked with AAA, as well as the American Association of Occupational Therapists, and brought up to Canada the CarFit program. And this program is designed to be a 20-minute checkup for you to bring your car to a CAA location or to some type of a community location and go through the checklist with a CarFit technician. However, this checklist also has a whole bunch of information on the backside, which allows you to do the checklist at home on your own or with a professional. Now, when we're doing this checklist, it's something that'll take you between 10 and 20 minutes. So it's not terribly long, and it's something that is based purely on all of the features that are already in most vehicles. So we're not doing anything particularly special, but we're making sure that all of those features that are already in your car are being used to their maximum ability, both to allow you to use the vehicle as well as to stay safe in the event of an accident. The first item on the checklist is whether or not you're the only driver. Now, if you think about how a car is set up, we can change the height of a steering wheel, right? We can change the height of the steering wheel. This mirror is going to change. We're going to be able to change the mirror on either side of the vehicle as well. You can move your chair back and forth, forward, tilt it back and forth. All of these features will help you stay safe in the event of an accident, but they'll also make you more comfortable as you drive your vehicle to get to all the things that you have to do in your day-to-day life. So there's the understanding that when you're setting up your vehicle, that you're going to change it every time a different driver is behind the wheel, just like you wouldn't use a desk the same way as anyone else at work, or a workstation the same way as anyone else. You set your vehicle up. So that's the first question in there, simply, are you the only driver or not? And then if you're a professional helping somebody, you're going to discuss the need to change positions and change the setup of the vehicle for everyone that is using the car. The second item is all about seatbelt use. And everyone, seatbelts, when they first came in, there was this conversation about whether or not they were really necessary. But when we're putting on our seatbelt, we're going to always want a couple of different things. So when we're putting on our seatbelt, we're going to be looking to make sure that this part of the seatbelt here, it's going to go over our shoulder. And most vehicles have adjustable seatbelts, so we try to set them up so that they're over our shoulder, not up at our neck, and they're able to hold us back in the event of an accident. The other thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at how the seatbelt goes across your lap. Now, if you have somebody, or if you yourself or somebody with a larger stomach, sometimes that seatbelt will ride up on your stomach over top of your belly button. And the challenge to that is that if you're in an accident, that seatbelt is going to put a whole bunch of pressure into your stomach, and it can cause internal organs to be damaged more so. And we want to try to set up the seatbelt so that it goes across these two bones that you can feel in your hip bones. So it goes across your lap as opposed to across your stomach. So those are the two things we're looking at when you're using your seatbelt, that we can adjust the seatbelt up and down so that this part is over your shoulder, and that the seatbelt across your lap goes across your pelvis and not across your stomach. In that second item on that checklist, there's also looking at taking measurements of your steering wheel. So when we're setting up our steering wheel, what we want to do is try to get the steering wheel to a height so that the middle of it is striking the middle of our chest. That way, if the airbag comes out, it hits our chest and not our face. In doing that, we also want to make sure that the wheel itself is at such a height that we can see at least 3 inches over top of that. And as you can see in this video that I will show you in a moment, there's different ways that we can do that using one ruler or two rulers.
Through a CarFit checkup, the technician will have the driver look straight ahead and hold one ruler in a straight horizontal line from the driver's eye level towards the windshield. With a second ruler, the technician will measure the distance from the first ruler to the top of the steering wheel. If your line of sight is 3 inches or more above the wheel, then your position is good. If your line of sight is less than 3 inches above the wheel, the technician or occupational therapist may suggest that you try to adjust your seat or the tilt of the steering wheel.
So we now know how high the wheel is at this point in time. The other thing that we're going to measure at this point on the checklist is we want to figure out how far the steering wheel is from the person's chest. And once again, it all has to do with the airbag. If we're too close and that airbag comes out, it's like we're going to hit a brick wall. As that airbag comes out, we want to fall into it. And as we fall into it, the airbag is actually deflating so that it can catch us. So if we're too close to that airbag, we hit that airbag too soon. So when we're looking at how far you are from the wheel, you want to be at least 10 inches away. You can be more than 10 inches away, but ultimately you just want to be that 10 inches away to maximize the function of your airbag. And once again, we can use a ruler to determine that 10 inches away from the steering wheel.
At least it's 10 inches away, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
So you're going to hold this at your chest and see. So
this is...
So this, nope, taking that away. So this ruler, if we just kind of cut that off, this is 10 inches.
Oh, well,
so
then
you are at least 10 inches away.
Yeah, usually I'm about this close.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I didn't know how far I should be. And it seemed like I was close because if this explodes in your face.
Well, we're gonna...
Now, obviously, if you are doing this by yourself, you're going to take the ruler and hold it in front of you and make sure that you're 10 inches away. If you're somebody who is helping a loved one do this checklist, or perhaps you're a professional doing this checklist, there might be the tendency for you to want to reach into the vehicle and actually help the person to do the measurement. However, we want to also be aware of people's personal space and make sure that we're not coming into their personal space when they don't want us there. So if you're helping someone do this checklist, they're capable of holding the ruler themselves, and you can learn how close they are not to that steering wheel with them doing their own measurement. So that's the end of item number 2 on the checklist, all about seatbelt use and then figuring out the position of the steering wheel relative to yourself. Number 3 is steering wheel tilt, position, and airbag. So at this point, you're going to be asking yourself or the person that you're helping whether or not they can see the speedometer. And we always want to try to make sure that we can look above the steering wheel, but also look down and see the speedometer and all of our other instruments without having the steering wheel block our view from those important instruments that allow us to drive. So that's all about item number 3. Item number 4 is that head restraint. So the back of your head, right here, that part right there, that's a really solid bone, and it can take a fair amount of punishment before you get a brain injury. That's why people are able to strike the back of their heads if they fall and not always have a concussion automatic. Okay, so when you're looking at this headrest, at this point, you can see that my head, that bone at the back of my head, the occiput, is clearly above this headrest. So this headrest is going to be too low for me, because if I'm in an accident, then if my head snaps back, it'll snap back far enough that I could get whiplash. So what we want to do is we want to look at making it higher. So this headrest, that's as high as it goes. So for someone such as myself, you can now see that that bone, that occiput at the back of my head, is going to strike the middle of the headrest rather than above it. So now it's at the right height for me. However, if I was a shorter person, you can now see that if I was a shorter person, that back of my head is now right down here, and my head could snap back quite violently if I was rear-ended. So when I'm a shorter person, you would be looking to make that headrest lower, because now my head would not snap back in the event of an accident, because that bone would be hitting the headrest. And so that's what you're looking for in setting up your headrest, is that the back of your head is hitting the middle of it in order to keep you as safe as possible if you were rear-ended. So at this point, we've done number 3, which has to do with making sure that this steering wheel is at the right height so the person can see their instruments, that it's tilted the right way so that airbag hits you in the middle of your chest and not your face. And we're going to want to make sure that the distance between the steering wheel as well as the height over the steering wheel is still appropriate, just as it was in number 2. And in order to do that, once again, we're going to use the same systems of measuring with a couple of rulers to see if you're above the steering wheel, or just estimating it by holding a ruler at about 3 inches and asking the person if they can see over. And then also asking the person in the car, or else yourself if you're doing the checklist, to hold that ruler and make sure that you have at least 10 inches of space between your chest and the steering wheel. So that's how we review that in number 5. Number 6 just follows up on that and continues to have a place for you to put the measurements all about the line of sight above the steering wheel and any adjustments that have to be made. Number 7 is all about pretending that you're actually driving, and then determining if you have the vehicle set up in such a way that allows you to easily switch between the gas and the brake. So if you're helping somebody do this checklist, you're going to walk them through imagining that they are driving the car down the street, get them to put their foot on the gas like they're driving, hands on the steering wheel, driving forward, facing forward, driving. And as you're driving, a child runs out in front of you. What are you going to do? And they're going to move their foot from the gas back over to the brake pedal.
We're gonna do 2 things at the same time. We want to see if you can move swiftly to the gas, to the brake, like you're slamming on the brakes. Like something ran out in front of you and you really need to slam on the brakes in an emergency. And Erin is going to be behind you checking the
time that the lights go on.
The lights, just the lights, to make sure that they're working, okay? And then I'm going to take a look at how your foot position is and everything, okay? Okay. All right, so you're hitting on the gas, hit on the gas, hit on the gas. Hands here, looking forward. No, I want you to press on the gas like you're going. Okay, press, press, press. Brake. Good.
Now, when you're helping somebody do this, you're going to be watching from outside the car, and you're going to be looking for a smooth movement between the gas and the brake. So that's the first piece, is the smooth movement between the gas and the brake. You might also look for whether they make a big stomp, so do they bring their foot back off the gas and then stomp on the brake, or are they using more of like a pivot method where their heel stays stuck to the ground and then they just pivot between the gas and the brake. The other thing that you're looking for in these moments when you're helping someone with the vehicle and doing education with somebody is, are they going to use their left foot? So they keep their right foot on the gas and then they lift up their left foot and bring it over to hit the brake. We don't want them doing that because that can result in a situation where the car doesn't actually stop because they're still putting pressure into the brake. So that's number 7, where you're looking to educate about how to switch your foot from the gas to the brake in a smooth way, and also making sure that their seat's close enough so that they can do that smoothly. Because if their seat is too far away, they're not going to be able to switch between the gas and the brake, or you won't be able to switch between the gas and the brake very easily because you won't have as much power in your leg. So that's number 7. Moving into number 8 is all about mirror adjustments. When we're setting up the mirrors, really what the goal is to reduce the size of the blind spot beside the vehicle on either side of the vehicle. Because when that blind spot is too large, such as for most people when they set up their mirrors, those mirrors are set up so that they can see a large portion of their vehicle, so that they feel oriented in space, so that they feel like they know where their vehicle is relative to the lane beside them. But they end up with this large blind spot, such as in this picture, where you can see that that motorcyclist is completely inside that red triangle because the mirrors are set up so close to the car that you don't see a large portion of the lane right beside you. Now, a motorcyclist is a fairly small vehicle, but even larger vehicles such as trucks can disappear into blind spots, and all of a sudden your vehicle is changing lanes because you forgot to shoulder check and you can't see the vehicle beside you in the mirror. So what the goal becomes is for you to set up your mirrors in such a way that those blind spots become smaller, such as the blue triangles now. And you can see that back wheel of the motorcyclist, and you can see the back bed of that truck. And now hopefully if you forget to shoulder check or you can't shoulder check anymore, you will still be able to see some part in that mirror and then stop yourself from changing lanes. Now when we're doing a CarFit event or when we're working with somebody, this next step, which is step 8 on that checklist, really requires you to have 3 people for you to be able to demonstrate to yourself where your blind spots are. Now, when we're demonstrating this, the orange person that you can see there is standing about 1 meter off of the back bumper and several meters behind the vehicle. You have one person who is standing up with the driver so that that person can communicate with the orange person about when they're going to stop walking. And the driver's in the car looking in their mirror, however it happens to be set up right from the beginning. And the blue person is going to tell the orange person to start walking, and they're going to start walking forward. And the driver is going to tell them to stop when they can no longer see the orange person in their mirror. At this point, as soon as you can't see the orange person in the mirror, that means that you've found the beginning of the blind spot. So there's the blind spot without mirrors properly set up. Now, once we've set the mirrors up properly so that you can see the entirety of the lane beside you, the blind spot gets smaller, and now that orange person could have walked several feet further before they entered that blind spot.
What she's going to be doing is coming forward slowly, and you tell me, looking back and forth, when she disappears. Okay? And that will be your blind spot.
Okay.
Okay? So she's going to come on forward.
I don't see her at all in the back.
Okay. Okay. Can you see her on the side?
Yeah, I see her completely.
Okay. Tell her when you, tell us when she disappears.
There.
Right there? Okay. Now can you turn?
I see her bag, but I don't see her.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you've now seen the way that we have 3 people working together, one in the driver's seat, one behind the vehicle walking forward, and then one listening to the driver when they say stop, I can't see the person anymore. You'll notice that when we set up this test to determine where the blind spot is, that it requires the person to be far enough off the bumper. So don't line up right beside the bumper, line back about to 10 to 15 feet, and then off about 2 big steps off the bumper when you start, or else you're going to find, you won't find the blind spot when you want to. So that's how it is that we test for the blind spot and the mirror adjustments. So when we're adjusting the mirror, we're going to instruct people to set up their mirrors using, it's called the blind spot elimination method, or blind spot glare elimination method. I just call it setting up your mirror. So when we're setting up our mirror, what we're going to do is we're going to get the person to put their head against the window and then set their mirror up so that they can't see their car. And what ends up happening when they do that is when they go back to a regular position, now they can see the lane beside them. It's going to be very disorienting at first. So some people might need to set up the mirror so that they just see a little sliver of their car so they feel oriented to where their car is in space. But ultimately what we want to encourage people to do is set up their mirror so that they see the entire lane beside them and not see any of their car. When you're setting up the mirror on the far side, then you're going to lean over so that you're looking over top of your head is over top of your console. You're going to look at the mirror and you're going to set up your mirror on the passenger side of the vehicle. So again, you only see very little of the vehicle on that side. And when you come back to your regular driving position, now you won't see any of the vehicle. You'll see the lane beside you rather than the sliver of your car. Again, some people will want to put a little sliver there in their rear view mirror so that they can see their vehicle and feel oriented in space. So at this point, we've now set the mirrors up properly. We have demonstrated where the blind spot is so that the person knows that just because they don't see something in their mirror doesn't mean there's nothing beside them. Now we're going to look at your mobility in your neck. And if you're by yourself, then you're going to just practice turning your head and see if you can turn it far enough to do a shoulder check. If you're doing this with somebody who's asking for your help while they're sitting in the driver's seat, you can go and stand in the blind spot, because we know where the blind spot begins with where they told the person to stop when they were doing the test for the mirrors. And you can watch them do a shoulder check over their shoulder. A couple things to watch for here. First thing, whichever side they're shoulder checking away from, there's this tendency to do this and lift up this shoulder off the seat in order to look over their shoulder, especially if they have limited neck movement. So if that happens, this steering wheel is going to move over in the direction that they're shoulder checking. And you can imagine that when this happens, the car starts to swerve over into the other lane. The same thing's going to happen if you're going that way. As you shoulder check, you lift this shoulder up to shoulder check, and now what's going to happen is you're going to swerve over into that lane. So what we can do instead, I mean, one thing would be to, I guess, tie them to the seat, but that's not really an option. is you're going to get them to drop this hand. If they're not able to keep their shoulder tight against this, tight against the seat, you're going to get them to drop the hand that they're looking away from, because when this shoulder lifts, this hand's going to pull the wheel over. But by dropping this hand, now this hand that's still holding the wheel gets anchored into the seat, and they're not going to end up turning the wheel. They can keep the car going straight, and as they shoulder check and lift this, the car will keep going straight because they're no longer forcing the wheel over with this hand. If you're going this way, you drop the arm of the shoulder that'll lift, keep this hand on there. As you shoulder check, this shoulder anchors into the seat and it doesn't pull the wheel with you. So we want to try to teach people how to shoulder check without lifting this shoulder, but if it is physically impossible to do a shoulder check without lifting their shoulder, then you always drop the hand of whichever shoulder is going to lift. And that's how we can help people do shoulder checks, even if their body no longer allows them to do it easily. The 10th item on the checklist is going to be your ignition key. Now, ignition keys are generally easy to use for most of us. However, some people are going to find that they start to develop arthritis or not as much strength in their hands, in which case I've seen people put pieces of cardboard on their keys to make them larger. I've seen people buy cars with the push start button so that they don't have to turn a set of keys anymore. You can buy pieces of plastic that go on your keys for key rings that are going to make the key easier to grip in their hands. So you have options that you can use in order to help a person manage turning their vehicle on. Number 11 is operation of vehicle control. So this is a lot like what they do at their multi-point checklists at Superlube or wherever it is you happen to go, the Great Canadian Oil Change perhaps. They'll go through and check your lights and make sure that all your lights are working. What we're going to do differently though when we're working with somebody, if we're a professional, is we're also going to watch how well do they access the different controls on their vehicle. Are they able to tell you how to use the different technology? Do they have questions? If the person that you're supporting to explore their vehicle is going to need help, do they want to pull out the instruction manual and make sure that they know how to use this computer that's in so many of the newer vehicles, such as this one that I'm sitting in today? What is it that we need to learn, not just about whether or not their tail light works, but also that they know what their different features are on their vehicle and how it is that they can use it. So at this point, we've now worked through 11 of the 12. If you are a CarFit technician at an event that you're running, you're done at at item number 11. If you are the occupational therapist, the person's going to pull forward to the checkout station, and then you as the occupational therapist will go through the checkout station with them. And at that checkout station, they will get out of their car. You can watch them get up and move. How do they get out of their car? Do they need assistive aids in order to get out of the car easily? For example, and I keep this in my vehicle, this is called a handy bar. It will break your window if you're in an accident and need to break the window to get out. It has a knife that's protected, so I cannot cut my finger, but you can use the knife to cut your seatbelt. It's ergonomically designed, and you can also use it to help people get out of the vehicle. Get out of the vehicle as well. If they need to support themselves, jumping in and out of their vehicle, it can be used as a handle. The other devices that exist are a swiveling pillow, which allows the person to sit down on their seat and then have the ability to swivel their legs into the car. You can buy devices attached to your seatbelt to allow people to more easily reach across and grab their seatbelt. And you can also get handles that attach to your window in order to give you something to grab onto to get in and out of your car when you're getting in and out of your vehicle. So those are the items that the OT will look at the checkout station. Also the items that you are able to purchase on your own if you don't have an OT available, but you're looking for different tools to help you get in and out of your car. So that's the CarFit checklist. Again, when you look at it, if you're kind of wondering, how do I remember all this? The CarFit checklist is available on the link in the description of this video, so you can go and take a look at it yourself. And it has all of the information specific to each of those different items that I just went through. So that's the CarFit checklist. As always, remember to make work fit you. You don't have to fit your work. You don't have to fit your life. The goal is to make life fit you. Until next time, stay safe. Have a good one.